Okay, so I'm Simona. First of all, I want to thank the DEVit guys for organizing this, and I think they deserve a round of applause again, right? Woohoo! Are you guys having a good time? You should, right? Okay, so I'm going to talk about scaling applications with Angular and TypeScript. And first of all, this is me. When I got to Thessaloniki yesterday, one of the organizers, it's not him, complained about my hair color. So he said, oh my God, how are people going to recognize you since you don't have the red hair? And I'm just going to show you, like, this is still me. And then again, this is again me. And this is me today, right? So enough about myself. We're now going to talk about Angular 2. And first of all, what this talk is going to be about, it's going to be a short introduction to Angular 2. I'm going to cover some basic features of Angular 2. I'm now getting very, very nervous. And after that, I'm going to talk about, it's going to be a small introduction to TypeScript. And we're also going to have a small live coding session. Hopefully that goes well. And this talk is definitely not going to be an extensive presentation about either Angular 2 or TypeScript, since you guys don't feel, I mean, it's only 30 minutes. It's not going to be Angular 1 versus Angular 2 framework. I'm sure how many people are working with Angular 1 now? That's a lot of you. How many people of you have worked with Angular 2? Have looked at Angular 2? Okay, you're the only one. Okay, so about Angular 2. I think that the main thing about Angular 2 is web components and components. And everything in Angular 2 is a component, and the main application is a component itself. And the advantages of this are code reusability. We all want that, right? Like, we want to define components and use them everywhere, and that makes us feel like our code is going to be used for 10 years, but that's never the case. And then another good thing about Angular 2 is that we get improved performance. And so the Angular team has published some metrics. And it looks like Angular 2 is going to be 10 times faster than Angular 1. We're also still getting the data binding. Initially, we had the two-way data binding, but it looks like now we like more the one-way data binding. So in a way, we're a bit of React, but then we're better, right? And okay, so what about TypeScript? How many of you guys have used TypeScript so far? That's very good. Do you like it? It's handy? It is. Okay, so what's TypeScript? TypeScript is practically a superset of JavaScript. Whenever you're writing JavaScript code, you're writing TypeScript code as well. So you can easily just rename a JavaScript file to a TS file, and that will be, ta-da, TypeScript. The benefit of using TypeScript is, obviously, we have types, and that's a big win-win for me. And then we have compile time errors. It's very helpful when refactoring stuff. Like, I used to work for a project that a team worked for 1 year in pure JavaScript, and after they did that, they realized, oh my God, our code base is a mess, and we cannot fix that. So they ended up writing a Java framework to write JavaScript, just to get the types and the benefits of refactoring and writing large applications. Another thing is that we have the JavaScript VM doing lots of optimizations for us. And then another great thing about having types is that our code is self-documented, right? So instead of just reading we have the definition of a function, right? And we just go there and you see string 1, not necessarily string 1, or parameter 1 and parameter 2. And you don't have any information about that. So what do? You have to read the method body and you have to understand, oh my God, what did this person want to do? And what are my parameters doing? And how should they look like? So now having types, we don't even have to go to the method definition. We understand at least the basic about our method. So as I said, we're going to do a session of live coding, and this is how the application is going to be a very basic application. We're going to do a Twitter streaming app, since we're at a conference and everybody loves tweeting at conferences, right? And we're going to have a page that's going to list tweets. That's it. And it looks like this. So it's very, very, very basic. And we should start. Okay, so we have on the Angular website, we have a quick start application. I have just downloaded it. I'm using Visual Code for helping me with this. And okay. So with my quick start application, I'm just going to run npm start. And this will start my application in the browser. And it's going to say, hello world. We don't like this message, right? Because we're at DEVit, and we want this message to be particular. So we're going to use interpolation. And we are going to define a title variable on our. So let's go back to this. This is a simple component in AngularJS. We have, in order to define a component, we are using a component annotation, and then we are using classes to actually define our component. So a component can be defined using a selector, which will be the string that's going to be matched in the HTML for our component. And then we're defining a template for each component. So in our component, we want to have a title, which will be dynamic. And we want to initialize it to DEVit is awesome. Is it? Okay, so if we are now going to our browser, yay! Our browser agrees. Let's make this smaller. Okay, but we still want to display the list of tweets, right? So this means that we are going to create a new folder, which is going to keep our lists, our files for our component, and this is going to be tweets component.ts. We are using TypeScript, and then there's this awesome thing that John Papa did for Angular 2, and he created like some code snippets. So this is going to help me write faster code. So we are setting our selector to tweets. We are creating a template. And then our component is going to be tweets component. So what do we want to have on this component? We want to have a list of tweets, right? And we want to have a type for our tweets. It's going to be an array. As you can see already, TypeScript tells us, oh my God, I don't know who tweet is. Can you please help me? So for this, I'm going to create a new file. which will be my tweet model. And here we are going to export a class called tweet. Surprise. And our tweets, what does our tweet normally have? It has a text, right? And this will be a string. And then we also have a location for the tweet because we want to know where our tweet comes from. And then normally the tweet is being tweeted by a user. Okay, but we don't know who user is. So we are going to create a user model. And our user model is going to be a class again. And a user will be defined only by its name and its image, because that's all that matters, right? Okay, and then we go back to our tweet model and we want to tell our class where does user come from. So we are going to import our user class from our user model. Okay, and we are saying, okay, so we have autocompletion. It's telling us that our user model module has a class user. We're going to import it, and then magic. Everything works. So we're going back to our tweet component, and we still don't know who tweet is. So we have to import tweet as well. And that comes from our tweet model, and again, everything looks perfect. So we want to have our initial tweets, we want them to be an empty array. And then I have prepared some tweets for us that are just dummy tweets. So, looking at our component, right? We have a HTML selector, we have a HTML template, we have a list of tweets that we want to display. So, let's go ahead and display them. How do we do that? We go to our app component TS, and using our backtick, new feature in ECMAScript 6, we are going to include our tweets component. Let's be precise about it. And of course, like we have the tweets tag, right? But our current component doesn't know who's this tweets. Where does it come from? So we need to define a list of directives, and that's going to include our tweets class. So we are telling our component that, hey, we want to import the tweets list, and that's coming from tweets.component. That I got the correct spelling, right? I did. And then our tweets component is going to be here, and we're going to define the directive. And I think that should do it. Like, unless live coding doesn't work during a presentation, a conference. It doesn't. We have 7 errors. I didn't expect that. Okay, that makes sense, right? So what is Angular telling us? It's telling us that we are missing the template, which makes sense, right? We told them that, oh, we want to display this template, but we never gave our component the template. So we want to create this file. It's going to be... I'm not sure if you guys want to see me write HTML. I could do that, but it would be much faster if I just copy-pasted this. How do you guys feel about that? Is it okay? Oh my god, I was so fast! So this includes a bit of Bootstrap, so we have some styling as well. We are displaying our list of tweets in a container, and then we are using the row of Bootstrap, and then practically we are defining a button which will call the find tweets method from our component, and it will do that only when we are clicking on the button. And then we are iterating over the list of tweets. And this is not the right thing at the moment. Okay, so I'm just going to delete it. We just want to display the tweet text, right? So we are missing a few items here, right? We are missing our find tweets in our component, which is just a method that should be doing this, actually. So find tweets will return the return of list of tweets. And what else do we have there? So we also have a button disabled property, which initially it will be, we don't want our button that retrieves the tweets to be disabled, but we first want to define our property, right? And then as soon as the user has clicked on find tweets, we want to disable this property because we don't want them to randomly click on buttons, right? So it should be now disabled. What else do we have there? We have the list of tweets. We want to display only the text of each tweet. We have the property defined. And then we have the find tweets defined. So it's working. Thank you. And now the magic happens. And it does. And we are now displaying a raw list of text. So that doesn't look that pretty, right? We want to style this. And instead of styling the main component, the list of components, we'd rather have a component for each tweet on which we can define the style and we can define whatever we want. And this way the tweet is contained and the list of tweets is only responsible for giving us the list of tweets. So I hope you guys still are not very hungry because I'm still going to create a component, a new one. I still have time, right? 13 minutes, okay. So we're creating a new tweet component, and this is going to be quite easy because we again have magical John Papa who has created this great thing for us. And so the key here is that we have a new directive which is expecting, we have our list of tweets in the parent component, but then we in the child component, in the tweet component, we want to be able to reach out and get the current tweet that we are iterating on. So this is now going to be called an input. And input is a new decorator coming from Angular core, and it just helps us define the input for our component. Okay. We want to import our tweet. We have the tweet attribute, and we're not going to make the same mistake again. We are actually going to define the HTML this time. And I'm gonna spare you guys me typing slowly. So this is the custom HTML that's gonna display our tweet. We are going to display the username, and we are going to display the profile picture for the user that has created the tweet. We are going to display the username and the tweet location, and then we are just eventually going to display the text. But we said that we also wanted to define some style for our component, right? So Angular has a new attribute called style URLs, which does exactly the same thing as it used to do in Angular 1, I guess. So here we are gonna define the path to our CSS file, and of course we have to create the file because otherwise it won't work. And our CSS is saved here. Sorry. Okay, so this was a folder, sorry. Okay, deleting. Awkward silence. And this should be the moment of truth. So just to do a quick summary before I see the errors. We have defined the new component. It has a selector. It has an HTML file. It has the styles defined. It has the input defined, so we have the model here. But then, obviously, we want to use this tweet in our main component, right? Which we haven't yet. So we are now here going to use the new HTML tag. And we are telling Angular that we want to bind the tweet property to our current tweet. But in order for Angular and for our browser to know who tweet is, we have to go to our tweets component, and we have to declare our dependency for our directive. And that can only happen if we know where our directive is. So tweet component, we are importing it, and then we are adding the dependency to it. So this looks much better. Unless it doesn't. It looks like something doesn't really work. You guys expected this, right? So, what is it that we don't like? So we have our input defined. And then this is tweet. Okay, so I think I'm gonna, is it? 8 more minutes. Oh, I was hoping for 2. Sorry? We have the question. So I think I'm just going to stop here. Not because I don't want to fix the error, but just because I don't want to waste. I can already hear the blah 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 blah. So, sorry. Can I make what? Tweet a string? I'm not sure if I hear you. Yes. Here. I don't. Quote. Oh no, it doesn't have to be a quote. Definitely. Or does it? No.
I think that
yeah, I'm gonna come back to you guys with the fix for this.
At this place, you need a warm applause first.
Thank you.
Would you like us to start with the questions? Or?
I'm just gonna summarize for a second there. So my intention was to go through some dependency injection and filters as well, but since I was a bit slower than expected, we're not going to do that, but we have seen how you define a component in Angular 2. And I hope you guys, like, the application is now not running, but I think it's really quick to start up with Angular 2, and I think it's really, like, I as a developer, I feel good writing Angular JS2 code. And I think that's nice. And about the tooling that I've used, so this is Visual Code. It has support for Angular 2. It has support for TypeScript. And then, as I mentioned before, John Papa has created some cool snippets for us, which, yeah, makes it faster to write code. And I think that's all about, yeah. So, any questions?
Anyone? Okay, anyone here with questions?
Don't be shy.
Okay, there.
Hello, my name is Nectarius. I just want to ask if it's harder to debug TypeScript than JavaScript.
No,
like,
yeah, sorry.
That was it.
Yeah, so it's exactly, so the code that you're writing, the TypeScript code that you're writing, you're actually going to see it in the browser. If you go to sources, normally it should be there. But since we have errors now, it might be, like we have the, for example, the app component TS, and you can just add debug breakpoints there. And it just, yeah, it's exactly the same. So you don't feel the difference. There's, in the background, there's a tracer, which creates the source maps for you, and it just works. So the code that you're writing will be exactly the same as the code that you're debugging, which is cool.
Anyone else? Okay.
Thank you for the presentation. I want to ask what a type checking looks like, a type checking error looks like, and if you can show us.
Like if you're in a TypeScript file, right? And so you don't have the type here. Like we don't know who tree is.
No, if we use a different type that is incompatible with the one that is expected.
Okay, so you mean I'm just gonna do a tweet, blah blah. Has to be this dot tweet, and it's gonna say type string is not assignable to type tweet.
Okay. Okay.
So it's very similar to Java or C# or whatever typed language we
Okay,
have
thank
there.
you.
No problem. Okay, so any other questions?
Any last question? So to say.
Sorry?
Okay, here is one.
Do you want us to try a typecast? I think it will complain that it doesn't. Yeah. Yeah, you have generics in TypeScript, and you have interfaces. You can extend classes. It's pretty much very similar to what we have in Java, except that you're not forced to use types. So instead of declaring like this is type twit, you can change this to any, and then this should work. Or you can completely ignore types.
Thank you so much. It was such a great presentation.